In a series of videos, I'm going to present summaries from this huge study of what is known as the Bavarian Illuminati. This book was originally published by Rene Le Forestier, who lived from 1868 to 1951 and was one of the most preeminent historians of the occult worlds of the 17th and 18th centuries. His work explored the relations between the many secret societies that existed during that time, with a special emphasis on Freemasonry and Martinism. The book was originally published in 1914. It was translated by Jon E. Graham in 2022 and is 904 pages in length. This brief introduction appears on the inside flap of the book. Quote, "The Bavarian Order of the Illuminati is the most celebrated secret society in the world. Though officially lasting only 11 years, the powerful spell and shadow cast by the Illuminati still looms in the present day, where its influence can be seen in current conspiracy beliefs and actions by powerful individuals working in the shadows. The original order of the Illuminati was founded by Bavarian professor Adam Weishaupt in 1776. Although the order was banned and brought down by the Bavarian elector in 1787, when he became aware of the extent to which it had infiltrated the courts, the schools, and his own administration, its legend and deep influence lives on to this day." End quote. I will create 6 videos for this series, one on each of the 6 books presented. Book 1 is called The Order of the Illuminati. Book 2 is German Freemasonry from its origins to 1780. Book 3 is The Illuminated Freemasonry. Book 4 is History of the Illuminati System. Book 5 is Weishaupt's Philosophical Testament. And Book 6 is The Illuminati Legend. The Bavarian Illuminati was founded by Bavarian professor Adam Weishaupt in 1776. Weishaupt was born on February 6, 1748, to a professor in the small Bavarian university in the town of Ingolstadt, Germany. The trustee of that university was a man named Baron von Ickstadt. Upon the death of Adam Weishaupt's father in 1753, young Adam was put under the care of Ickstadt, his godfather. Adam attended the Jesuit college in Ingolstadt, where he graduated at the age of 15. He then attended law school. The training he received at the hands of the Jesuits made a strong impression on Weishaupt. He had read a lot of books from his godfather's library, and many of these books stressed critical thinking and skepticism. This was in direct opposition to the teaching style of the Jesuits, who sought to engage only the memory of the student, the end result being the creation of mechanical, non-critical thinkers. Weishaupt is quoted by Rene Le Forestier to have said, quote, "The Jesuits sought through external brilliance, habit, and taming of body and mind to make themselves so completely the masters of young brains that their students would never, when reaching maturity, seek for more solid reasons than those they had been given. Our sole religious instruction consisted of mechanically reciting by heart a passage from Arcasius every Friday." End quote. Weishaupt eventually became extremely skeptical of what he was taught by the Jesuits and ended up rejecting it out of disgust. He felt that Jesuit methods of education created Christians who were not prepared to make logical, reasonable arguments in response to those who would challenge their religious philosophies. Therefore, he emancipated himself from traditional beliefs and came to believe it was his mission to help others do the same. He read extensively and studied law, political economy, and philosophy. Weishaupt became a titled professor at the age of 25 and dean of the law school at Ingolstadt University at 27. Much of his rise to such heights owed to the protection he received from his godfather, Baron von Ickstadt, who was the powerful trustee of the university. Eventually, Weishaupt engaged in a battle against Ickstadt. He considered himself to be a martyr of free thought fighting at Ingolstadt against the upholders of obscurantism, and believed himself to be persecuted by them for professing natural law and practical philosophy. According to Rene Le Forestier, Weishaupt exaggerated the power of the clerical faction and their hostility toward him. However, it was his own vanity which alienated his peers at Ingolstadt. He thought he was courageous and a bold truth-teller. What motivated him? Le Forestier says it was his, quote, thirst for proselytizing, and his will to power. He dreamed of recruiting followers who would support him in his quest to fight the enemies of reason. He continued to teach his classes, but also formulated a plan for a secret group that would create propaganda for truth and reason and oppose the views of those he saw as being arrayed against him. The members of his secret organization would ally themselves with him to keep the masses of people shackled to stupidity and superstition, and persecuted those who championed progress and reason. This society would make him powerful, but the power would be concealed under the cloak of secrecy. He began to study Freemasonry. He recognized that there was a profound difference between the true and false Freemasonry. Being of devious mind, he thought that it was more convenient to sit down at a table that was already set than set his own table. Thus, he set out to join forces with the Freemasons. He felt that he could attract followers who were attracted to mystery. Thus, he sought to create a model secret society that would be like a secret wisdom school. His Order of the Illuminati would teach initiates scientific truths and try to shape their minds in such a fashion that they would be able to think critically and freely and escape the rigidity of the priests. The original name Weishaupt chose for his secret society was the Order of the Perfectibilis. However, since his goal was to make the group as mysterious as possible, he changed it to the Order of the Illuminati. The organization was founded on May 1st, 1776. It had 5 members to start. Each of the members was not to be known by his real name, but by a pseudonym. Weishaupt took on the name of Spartacus. The young 18-year-old student who had become his confidant, Messenhausen, became known as Ajax. Bauhoff, a law student, was called Agathon. Another law school was to be called Mers. And finally, there was a man named Sutor, whose pseudonym is not known to historians. And this man was eventually expelled from the organization by Weishaupt. Until January of 1778, only Massenhausen and Mers were allowed to know the true history of the order, the date of its founding, and the name of its founder. Eventually, Weishaupt was able to recruit new members into the society. He instructed his followers via letters to, quote, work on your end and bring me materials. Let no difficulty stop you. Search society for young men, observe them, and if one of them leases you, grab him by the collar. What you cannot do yourself, have others do, end quote. Weishaupt kept in touch with the members of his organization through correspondence. He urged them to go out and seek well-bred young men for the ranks of the order. He told them, quote, we should only draw from those who are adroit, industrious, flexible, and sociable. If in addition to that they are noble, rich, and powerful, so much the better, end quote. He urged them to keep a low profile and instructed them to, quote, sometimes consent to playing the valet so that one day you can become the master, end quote. Eventually, Massenhausen, Ajax, fell out of favor with Weishaupt. A man named Xavier Zwack took his place as a member of the Illuminati. According to Le Forestier, a letter addressed to Zwack by Weishaupt dated January 31st, 1778 indicates that Zwack was to replace Ajax and thus be raised to a position of Areopagite. Zwack would then act as representative of the Illuminati order in Munich. In the letter, Weishaupt contended that Massenhausen had been stealing some of the dues money that was collected from members. Weishaupt advised Zwack not to reveal his new position to Massenhausen because he feared that the latter would, as a reprisal, reveal the existence of the secret order. On February 22, 1778, Zwack, born Xavier Karl Wolfgang von Zwack of Holhausen, officially took on the pseudonym of Cato. By the middle of March, the Illuminati order consisted of 19 members. These members were spread out between the following cities: Ingolstadt, Munich, Eichstätt, Ravensburg, and Frauenburg. Subsequently, Weishaupt worked to set up a colony in the city of Freising. The pace of recruitment continued during the summer of 1778, and the list of members continued to expand. By the end of that summer, the Illuminati order had 27 members. By the year 1779, the order increased its ranks to 30. How was the Illuminati order organized? At the time Weishaupt founded the order, he had created only the bare bones structure of the organization. According to Le Forestier, during those early years, Weishaupt envisioned a trinary organization, which would consist of the preparatory class called the novitiate, a second class which would eventually come to be called the Minerval grade, sometimes called the Illuminati grade, and a third class called the Mysteries. The status of this third class was to remain in limbo for some time. Above these three classes would be a secret committee that would be unknown to the regular members. Weishaupt continued to work out the details of how each of these grades would be structured and how they would operate. Finally, by the end of 1779, Weishaupt established the following three classes of the order: the novitiate, the Minerval, and the Minerval Illuminatus. An applicant's request to join the society began with a mandatory trial stage, during which he was known as a novice. Le Forestier quotes from the Statutes of the Illuminati, which was written by Weishaupt, regarding the goal of the society. Quote, "To render interesting for a man the effort he takes to improve and perfect his moral character, to spread the principles of humanity and sociability, to prevent the realization of evil plots in the world, to raise to the aid of virtue oppressed by injustice, to seek to place men of merit to the positions in society they deserve, and in general bring within the grasp of its members the means to attain knowledge and science." End quote. The most important duty of the novice was listed as keeping the inviolable rule of secrecy. It is in the order's interest to remain as hidden as possible. Silence and secrecy are the soul of the order. The novice was required to sign a pledge of silence. He pledged never to speak of the order's business to anyone. Silence is the supreme law, was the rule. The novice was instructed to subordinate his own viewpoints, personal interests, and friendships. He was required to submit to and obey all commands of the leaders of the order. In addition, he was instructed to never allow courtesy to the leaders to degenerate into familiarity. Novices of the order were always seeking to be promoted to a higher grade. In order to do this, they were asked to find and recruit others for membership into the society. In so doing, they were required to keep their superiors apprised of every step taken in this endeavor. The instructions provided by superiors were highly detailed and included how to choose a candidate, how to proceed, and what to do once a prospective candidate signed the necessary pledge. Only members of the Christian religion were allowed to enroll. No non-Christians, Jews, pagans, monks, women, or members of other secret societies were eligible. According to Le Forestier, Weishaupt emphasized the need for novices to take time and great care when recruiting members. He wrote to Zwack on March 21st, 1778, saying, quote, "Except that you are going too fast and with no preparations, particularly with the people you need to bring to the desired spot by devious routes. You should proceed gradually and with many detours, stops, and delays. First cause the birth of vague and imprecise desires in the candidate's mind. Then, when the candidate brings them out into the open, show him the object he can thus grasp in his two hands." End quote. Once the new recruit was accepted into the novitiate, the novice became his superior. The length of time a novice had to spend in the novitiate stage differed depending upon his commitment to the cause and willingness to devote himself fully to it. If the novice succeeded in moving up to the next level, he was then called a disciple of Minerva or Minerval. An initiation ceremony took place, and Le Forestier describes it at length. He quotes from documents which describe the initiation ceremony, the profession of faith, and the interrogation phase, and these documents are several original texts of the Order of the Illuminati found at the home of the former government advisor Zwack during a search made in Landshut on October 11th and 12th, 1786, and published by order of His Electoral Highness in Munich, 1787. Each Minerval sought to elevate himself eventually to an even higher class in the order. In order to do so, he was required to, quote, "be satisfied with his position and his fate, administer his holdings with strict economy, respect and love his parents, respect all those in authority, both those of the order and the state, venerate those whose hair was gray, respect all institutions of learning and contribute to their prosperity, and recommend the deserving brothers among his circle of acquaintances, and defend them." End quote. The next grade in the order was that of the illuminated Minerval or Master. Those adepts who achieved this level were instructed to give the utmost attention to 3 or 4 Minervals below them who were designated by their superiors. The job of the superiors was, quote, inculcating them with the principles of the purest morality, giving them a high idea of the order, maintaining their enthusiasm, inspiring their trust, and attracting their esteem and affection. End quote. By these means, superiors would study the brothers placed under their supervision and guide them. Observing those who were around them and studying their behavior and speech lent insight into each man's character. The Minerval statutes required each member to take copious notes on every person with whom he spent his time. This included recording not only physical descriptions, but actions as well. The reason for this intensive study of man was to enable the Minerval to obtain what he wanted from others by understanding both their motivations and triggers. In turn, the superior of each illuminated Minerval provided a report to the leaders of the organization on how well each had performed his duties. Le Forestier contends that Weishaupt believed his strategy for teaching morality to the members of the organization was superb. However, Le Forestier concludes that in fact the methods utilized by the Illuminati order were unethical and devious. He cites the need for the recruiter of new members to, quote, exploit the attraction mystery exerts, end quote. The recruitee was led to believe that the leaders of the Illuminati were all-knowing and that the secrets of the order would eventually be revealed to them. This, however, was nothing but a ruse meant to draw in new recruits. Even the Minervals were manipulated in this fashion and left to eventually discover on their own that they were lied to. Le Forestier states that he could find no evidence in any of his source documents that recruits were ever informed of the true state of things, including the recent creation of the order. Weishaupt wrote to Zwack that this fact was, quote, the greatest of all our mysteries, end quote. Recruits were told that the order's origins were ancient, which simply was not true. Le Forestier quotes Weishaupt in this letter saying that, quote, once they know all, they will leave us. Once one has drunk, one turns one's back on the fountain. Do not lose by premature confidences the appearance of great age, end quote. Thus, rather than promoting the enlightenment of the human spirit as its primary goal, the leaders of the order were promoting deception and falsity. Members of the order were required to inform and spy on one another. The goal was for members to observe the faults of their colleagues. Instead of promoting good relations between members, this strategy destroyed it. Within the order, there was a definite anti-religious sentiment. Weishaupt and his followers believed that priests and monks were enemies of intellectualism and morality. He considered his organization to be one where free thinkers would be safe from attack. It was also necessary for Weishaupt to receive support, however, from powerful allies who could provide funding for the group. Of course, these funders of the order were to be granted privileges in return. This contradicted the supposed principle of the order, which was to uphold the morality of practicing equality. Le Forestier notes that high birth allowed some members to enter the order without having to meet the standards imposed on ordinary recruits. What was the reason Weishaupt and his followers proclaimed to uphold principles of morality while employing methods described as debasing recruits? Le Forestier surmises that Weishaupt's early Jesuit teachers may have been to blame. He says that the Jesuit motto was, the end justify the means, and Jesuitic morality would mean a complete absence of scruples, radical duplicity, and success sought at any price. It appears that the Jesuit order did serve as a model for Weishaupt and his followers when setting up the Illuminati order. Weishaupt admired the strict subordination and moral unity of the Jesuits and thought a system built upon this same structure would serve his organization well. Some historians see the order of the Illuminati as a weapon invented and utilized by Weishaupt to fight their main opponents, the Jesuits. In Bavaria, at the time the organization was founded, many people were opposed to the clerical oppression imposed for centuries on them by the Jesuits. Secondary schools in the University of Ingolstadt were run by Jesuits. Bavaria was isolated from the intellectual movement that was taking place in the rest of Germany. Le Forestier quotes F. C. Schlosser, a historian writing in 1879, who had this to say about Bavaria and its relationship with the Jesuits. quote, Bavaria abounds with idlers and beggars supported by the alms that the monasteries distribute without discernment. The numberless priests and monks have bastard children who become swindlers and criminals. The punishments that are decreed are as barbaric as the crimes they punish. The new criminal code appears to have been written with blood. Torture, the wheel, decapitation, and hanging are the order of the day, but the atrocious repression only increases the number of criminals. The shrewd policies of the Jesuits made a folk custom out of pilgrimages that blended idling and disorder into an inseparable whole. They alone were the cause of what princes and nobles given an example of in this regard, and quite natural consequences of this state of things is that even in our time, reason struggles in vain in Bavaria and in Westphalia against tradition and routine." End quote. This created a separation between Bavaria and the rest of Germany, which was enjoying a great intellectual awakening. The Illuminati order welcomed into its ranks skeptics, philosophers, and modernists, and encouraged the formation of a league against enemies of reason and humanity. What were the weaknesses of the Illuminati order? According to Le Forestier, the main weakness of the society was a lack of harmony among the leaders of the group. Weishaupt tried in vain to wield absolute power and to micromanage every detail of his subordinates. Zwack eventually came to resent this and became somewhat suspicious of Weishaupt's intentions with regard to his role in the society. Weishaupt wrote to him on June 27, 1778, and tried to address Zwack's concerns. He wrote, quote, "I now know all the reasons why you are against me. To say it in one word, I scare you. Oh, my excellent friend, you should have no fear of me." End quote. He tried to convince Zwack of the necessity of his maintaining supreme control of the society. He wrote, quote, "When the order is at stake, it alone is master. We are all servitors of our purpose, and I am first of these servitors, for I am working for all of you." End quote. Zwack was not convinced, but eventually he capitulated and submitted to Weishaupt's authority. On November 24th, Weishaupt wrote, quote, "So it is peace then. Heaven help us that it endures. You will see that in 3 months we will make more progress than we have in 2½ years up to the present. Let us be friends, Cato. You will see that I can make a distinction between people, treat those who are sincere with justice, those who have good intentions, and give me their trust." End quote. 4 different colonies of the group existed in 1778, but the rivalry between Ingolstadt and Munich were most concerning to Weishaupt. This is largely because the Munich colony seemed to yearn for a degree of independence that Weishaupt did not like. The Areopagites formed in March of 1778 in Munich a high council composed of 4 members to discuss which decisions would be submitted to Weishaupt for ratification. This council began gradually to play more of a role in how the society would operate. Eventually, Weishaupt had to address the council, and he presented a long list of justifications for his actions. After this was over, Weishaupt accused the Athenian Areopagites of trying to develop weapons to use against him. He declared, just as he had done earlier with Zwack, that he was the head of the order, and because of this status could do as he wished in exerting supreme control of the order. The council put together a report of conclusions which laid out 5 demands. Le Forestier reports that Weishaupt, 1 against 5, then surrendered and approved the decisions of the Congress. The Areopagites agreed to accept Weishaupt's plans, but with the stipulation that they could make changes to the notebooks that Weishaupt kept. Le Forestier says that the antagonism between Weishaupt and the Areopagites continued unabated because neither was able to prevail over the other. Each side needed the other. Neither could direct and organize the organization alone. This was the permanent cause of the entire society's weakness. In addition, it was subject to financial difficulties. Le Forestier concludes his examination of the order's weakness by commenting that, quote, "These causes of weakness, for which the order's leaders could find no remedy, made its existence quite precarious. It would soon have died of its own listlessness if it had not finally sought the support it needed in Freemasonry, where it found among the members of this powerful secret society the man of providence that would give it new vitality by grafting the order onto this vigorous trunk." End quote. In the next video, we will explore the next section of Le Forestier's book and delve into German Freemasonry from its origins to 1780.